A lot of times you'll hear the saying, blood pressure is the silent killer, depression is the silent killer. Like all the things that you can't see are the silent killers. So with being a medical medium and seeing how trauma and stress manifest into illness and serious diseases like cancer and autoimmune issues, I'm over here to tell you 100% stress and trauma are absolutely a silent killer. So this is where I picked up on thyroid cancer in a client's neck. And the 3 dots, 4, 2, 3, and then 1 over here, 1 is actually pointing to an energy block right there, just next to the thyroid. But the way this went down is I picked up on the energy block number 4 up by her jaw that was causing some TMJ issues. Now it's on the left-hand side, so right away I knew it was connected to her mother. And there were other issues in her energy that kept bringing me back to a very toxic, narcissistic mother in childhood. And what happened was the mother was a single mother and there was no presence of a father, which led to this block because she never got reason for where her dad was. Her mom never talked about it. So she had all this suppressed energy and wanting to ask about father, wanting to get information about the father, like, where's my dad? Who is my dad? That's this energy block right there in number 1. And with number 4, and because the mother truly being a narcissist, like the energy that came through on this mother was insane, like abusive, verbal abuse, manipulation, and just never allowing this person, my client, to be open in voice. She just always had a suppressed voice in childhood. Like she didn't share her feelings. If she was hurt or crying, she would get punished. If she was ever like emotional for any reason, whether it was anger, sadness, or happy even, she would be punished because she was making noise and the mom wanted to sleep because she was a single mom and worked a lot of hours. So this client of mine grew up walking on eggshells, suppressing her voice, trying to be quiet, which led to the block number 2, where just being brought up in a silent childhood of like basically being seen and not heard. But what ended up happening is my client was conditioned to now keep her voice suppressed, hide her feelings, hide her emotions, which opened up a channel for more toxic women to come into her space. So the other thing that connected to this block was a toxic boss and a toxic coworker in 2 different work situations where these people just walked right over my client, like just totally took advantage of her. But she never said anything because she never learned how to speak her voice. She was conditioned to stay silent and just to keep going and continue and like keep her head up, keep a smiley face on. Like my client was very strong in energy and very strong in her character. So she was very much like, suck it in and go, just keep going. And don't let it get to you. Don't let it bother you. Just keep going. So she just kept suppressing over years and years and years, all this energy around the neck and throat. And the other thing, I didn't diagram it on this, but there were blocks in this area here up through her neck that were connected to toxic husband because she was now drawing in people that did not speak to her well and did not treat her well, like just narcissistic behaviors coming at her left and right. And the other thing was she was an empath. So anybody with trauma or toxic issues or like brokenness were coming to her because they were drawn to her healing. So she had a lot of blocks through the area on the right side as well that were connected to men that were maybe not always verbally abusive, but there were issues with communication in the relationship. And that led to neck pain, pain in the trapezius muscle. And then on the left side, of course, you can't see it in the photo, but she had frozen shoulder. And I picked up on a bunch of energy blocks in the shoulder joint. And I was like, is it the rotator cuff? What happened? Like, you don't have any rotation at all. Like, your arm just feels like it's stiff. Like, you can't even, like, make a circle. And she's like, yeah, I have frozen shoulder. And that, again, was linked to the trauma that started in the energy block on 4 in the jaw. And then by the time she was in her like mid to late 20s, she had the energy block on trauma 2. By the time she was in her late 30s, now with me, she's 40, she had thyroid cancer. And now what ended up happening on the thyroid cancer is I vibrated it back. I went back into the ancestral lineage on the mother side. And the mother had a very similar mother, but it was even worse. Like the mother was very abused. And as I got to look at the mother's energy, I started to feel really bad for her because her narcissistic behaviors were basically a survival tactic that she taught herself in childhood to survive the abuse of her mother. And then that mother had an abusive sister because she was raised by her mom's sister. So it was her grandmother's sister, so an aunt, that raised my client's mom, if you're following me. And that person had a mother vibe, a caring mother vibe, but there was still the trauma because of the mother being abusive. And it just went on forever. Like, I went back, way back, and the women just abused all along the ancestral line with the throat. And it was leading to thyroid cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, like cancer, all in these areas between the heart and the throat. It was all sorts of trauma manifesting into illness in these areas that started with the throat. So this is a longer video, but it's explaining a very significant illness linked to trauma that is in the throat on the thyroid with thyroid cancer. Now, being a medical medium, I'm kind of biased, but everybody I see, they have a significant amount of trauma that leads to a very serious illness. And also with this client, she had Hashimoto's. So she had started out with Hashimoto's in her 30s and just thought, autoimmune disease, yeah, illness runs in the family on my mom's side. It is what it is. It's not the illness that runs in the family. It's the trauma that runs in the family that manifests into the illness. So when you're in a stressful situation, be aware of your body physically and emotionally, and allow yourself to process and go through whatever emotions you need to feel and experience, because that's what cycles that energy out of your body so it doesn't suppress and manifest into illness. Now, feel free to follow my YouTube channel as well, Define Your Glow. I have a lot of my TikTok videos on there as well, but I do have other videos about healing. And then also check out my other videos on my TikTok, because I have a few of these they're basically maps of how people's symptoms and stress and traumas, I have step-by-step energy blocks of how it manifests into their illness or their disease.